SFJ 4x4 Studios presents
in my oversized four-wheel drive Jeep.
a Jeep podcast starring industry experts.
Pure monosity. What? Say that again.
With mad scientist Scott Brown,
Use my drill press as a sort of lathe.
our host Neil Simpson,
If one light goes out, they all go out.
filled with shenanigans.
We are really professional with Jeeps.
This is I Speak Jeep.
Yay!
Okay.
We'll do it again.
New computer, new equipment, so
Yeah.
learning curve.
That's a big thanks to you on the production side for reinvesting and getting some new software and new computer to help integrate. One of the things people consistently say to me goes, I've seen the inside of your facility. I know you're an actual working shop, and yet the sound quality and the production value is fantastic. So big shout out to both you and the Savage for what you bring to the table. I will do it again, folks. Those of you who are listening through your favorite in your ear holes through your favorite streaming platform, you're just gonna have to listen to the intro again, and we'll see if I can repeat por favor myself. Good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever, however you are joining us. This is the I Speak Jeep podcast presented by SFJ4x4.com. My name is Neil with Simpson Family Jeeps, and as our stunt stand-in backup hitter for Scott Brown, the mad scientist, today we have the man, the myth, the legend, the Italian stallion, Jeffafa Shiramonte.
Hello.
Hello. Wow, that's good.
Well, you took the whole intro, so I didn't know what else to say at that point.
Hello. This is episode 53. If you are still on with us,
And I see a lot of comments coming in, so hi to Amy, hi to Joe, hi Allison.
hey, what's up, folks? We're glad you're joining us. Folks, if you're just tuning in, if this is your first time ever joining us, thank you so much for being part of our family on, whatever platform you might be joining us. However, if you're just getting going with us, this is episode 53. That means there's 52 other spectacular 52 other spectacular podcasts that you need to get involved with. Obviously, you can be joining us live on Facebook, 10:19 a.m. or somewhere around about there. And or in your favorite streaming platform, and then obviously on the YouTube I Speak Jeep podcast channel. And obviously, if that's not all good and well for you, you got to head over to SFJ4x4 TV and get you some of that fun social media content that we produce, from vlogs and how to buy videos and maintenance stuff, and the good, the bad, and the ugly. Actually, a video of yours got some love and maybe a little hate. Got a little hate in the past week or so.
Yep.
So just so there's some interesting controversy over on one of Jeff's videos. You might want to head over there, find that one, and figure that out. So I see Dave. Dave is saying good morning as well.
Yes.
So
Hi, Dave.
Dave Ammerman and company, who's sitting around and has the podcast on. We appreciate you guys doing that and being part of this. Episode 53. We are going to be doing a follow-up from the Christmas parade, right? Everybody loves a parade, especially small-town America, and the Jeep showed up in a big way. So thank you to all of the people who participated in that. Definitely, there was a lot of different clubs represented from DSO, ACOR, LCOR, EJP, and then obviously probably the one that was biggest represented was Freedom Crawlers. So, big shout out to all of those.
You forgot about
folks.
Blue Jeep Crew.
I did.
They were well represented. I'm
Blue
just saying.
Jeep Crew was well represented, right? So Blue Jeep Crew folks, you have to have a blue Jeep. So, if you don't have a blue Jeep, then you don't know. If you have a blue Jeep and you're not in Blue Jeep Crew, it's a very healthy Facebook group that just leads with the blue on their shirts. I mean, Jeff, you're a spitting image of what the club is like.
Yeah.
Friendly group, but man, are they proud of their blue Jeeps. I've got a blue Jeep. I'm in that Blue Jeep Crew, and I'm still not, I'm not getting in a fight over the color of my Jeep. I got to be honest with you.
Well, and then there's Joe going, we do. So I don't know if you've tuned into the Blue Jeep Crew much lately, but in the past several months, it's not only just the color blue now. Now there's individual teams. There's factions of the Blue Jeep. So there's Team Hydro, Team Chief. There's actually shirts being made by the Blue Jeep Crew for that.
There's division and scandal. Wowzers. And then there's a green Jeep group as well. I know folks are proud of their tank greens and evergreens and spring green. I don't know, all the greens. So anyway, turnout in force. We had a lot of Jeeps. There's some spectacular imagery from our team. We had the drone flying for the parade. Davey the Savage Thompson was out hustling in and out of Jeeps doing video. We will have our customary Christmas video up here soon. So if you are, if you're in the YouTube world, head over there, SFJ 4x4 TV, and watch those videos, support the process and enjoy them and get in the Christmas spirits with the Jeeps.
I can't wait to watch the video because I know what the Grinch was up to.
It's funny. It's funny. You told me there was going to be a surprise. Well, here's the thing. We're supposed to be talking about the parade here in a hot second. Not this moment. So let's
move on.
We'll come back. So we'll be doing we'll be talking about the parade. We will be doing a product spotlight, and just kind of some Thanksgiving-y stuff as well with the parade. We'll be doing a product spotlight. We'll be talking about inverters. If you remember, we had actually briefly mentioned inverters in kind of the top list of things to buy on last year's Christmas list for the Jeeper in your life. We're going to steal that limelight. We're going to be doing that segment next week, so you're going to want to tune in and make sure you're part of that next week for the top Jeep products for 2022 Christmas. We'll be talking about inverters some today, and then what's coming back?
Oh, the 12 days of Jeepmas.
The 12
and
days
Neil will be singing that for us.
Of Jeepmas.
Today is part 1.
You wanted it, folks. You wanted it. Here it is.
And I'm going to hit you with this just like last year. You're going to be singing a cappella for the first 2 episodes.
No.
And then the final one.
No.
You get the music.
It is not fair that Scott is off sick today because
you were going to make him sing it.
I was going to make him sing with me, and if nothing else, he has to do his fumbling of moving cards around. Oh my gosh, how do we get into these things? So we'll be singing the 12 Days of Jeepmas. This is a new rendition.
This
is not one that you've heard before. Not that you want to hear it anyways, but it will be new. To say
every single thing is different from last year's.
Except for me. I'm having to sing it. That's still the case. Well, so obviously, and we will be getting into parading and Christmas stuff, but it's important that we take a little bit of time. We talk about what's going on in the Jeep community, and then give some just generalized updates of what has been going on in our life. And it is a friendly reminder if you are just joining us. Certainly when Scott is on set with me, we have been in the Jeep community for decades at this point. We have done some gnarly stuff with Jeeps. We have really well-built, cool vehicles at this time. And so it is fun for us to take that Jeep life concept, that rugged individualism, that DIY inspiration, and how do we apply it to other aspects of our life? For Scott, he is doing this really wicked, cool, traditional 36 hot rod resto mod, and myself, my wife, and I have endeavored to hand build and stick build our house.
You know, I'm wondering, was Scott really not able to come in today, or was he had projects on that car he had to work on?
Oh, I didn't even think about that.
He was working hard at it. I was seeing updates
I
over
was
the
gonna
weekend.
say, I saw
so
updates all through the
He got to a
weekend.
point, and he's like, I can't stop now. I just got to work on it.
Man, I felt that in my soul about the house too. I didn't even think that Scott would do us dirty like that. Old man Brown,
Scott wouldn't do us
the
dirty.
mad scientist. I think he's just home working on the hot rod. I don't know. There might be some truth in that. There might be some
maybe.
truth in that. No, the crud is going around. I spent about 24, 48 hours sick about 2 weeks ago. Brought it home from the SEMA get together. That little fun time. Scott is chiming in, and he must be chiming in from his deathbed, and he's saying negative Red Rider. So. He must be joining us remotely. That's what we should have done. We should have
remoted him.
We should have remoted him in. He could be on his sick
But
bed.
we would have had to send Davey over there as a tech team to set him up.
How do you get this phone? How do you get this phone to screen record me?
He's saying he woke up from his nap to watch.
Oh, okay. Well, we're glad you're part of it, obviously. Anyways,
Amy wants to send him to the garage because she doesn't love the car shows streaming constantly.
and he's saying he barely can talk. He's got no voice. We get it. It's going around. So, folks, if you yourself has been affected by this, we get it. We hope that hey, we didn't have these crazy sick Thanksgivings. You're able to get out and enjoy yourselves, and that you're not sick from that. But if you are, that you are, you're sitting at home relaxing, drinking some tea, and listening to us talk Jeep life and Jeep concepts. So, and honestly, if you haven't. He is doing some really cool one-off metal work on that 36 hot rod. So you want to head over to his Instagram, his Facebook, and check that stuff out. Learning new skills every day and putting patches and other crazy stuff in with the car. Been some nice teaser shots. He keeps drawing back and getting like a whole shot of the car, and it just makes you want more because then he shows you these little close-ups. And you're like, I don't know what the heck I'm looking at.
Right.
The average person. I was like, yeah, it's a piece of metal folded. But as far as when he draws back and he gets a full shot of the car and it really lets you understand what he's doing, it's pretty impressive to say the least. So, I actually I did a couple things. I got to play in my big truck over the weekend and do some private hauling for my uncle, which was all good and well. So that's always a fun day when I get to go out and play with one of my automotive toys. It was a little muddy and sloppy, so that takes a little bit. It's a big 2-wheel drive heavy truck, so that always takes a little bit of extra finesse in the process. But as far as our house is concerned, our large storage unit build, which is still what we're calling it, City of Conneaut, if you're listening, is going very well, and we are 80% dried in, which is really cool.
That's awesome.
If you are unfamiliar and you're listening and you're not sure what that is, dried in means that it's wrapped and taped, reasonably weather tight. Which is really cool. So in my brain, it's like when we're doing stuff to our Jeep and you think like, hey, I just want this winch bumper, and then I can get the winch, and then I can get the fog lights, then I can get the spotlights, that kind of stuff, the brush guards. For me, as we get dried in, I'm getting excited because I'll be able to hang some lights and I'll be able to work in there, because of course it gets dark at like 3 p.m.
Yeah.
It's like midnight darkness. So that and like the Caro heaters that you have brought into work and you have, I've been looking at those myself because I'm like, man, I could throw one of those in there.
It would heat that whole place up.
It would heat that place up like
Yes.
instant, like
Yeah.
a microwave.
Yeah.
If you're just joining us, that it's a tiny house ish, tiny storage unit, large storage unit. It is pretty darn cool as with the legalities of where and how it's at. I'd love to bring more pictures and kind of what it is as in its specifics to our viewers and listeners. But understand it's just under 1,000 square feet, so it's not that tiny anymore. But it is really compact, and it started out life as basically a modular home or a trailer box that we brought, shipped in on the back of a semi-truck. 20-year-old modular home, dropped it off in a field, and my wife and I have been going at it board by board. So cool stuff. But I'm really jazzed up, and I was thinking, kind of like Scott, I'd love to just keep doing my projects on Monday. No, he's homesick. Jeffrey, what'd you do?
So I did everything because my wife got hurt. So
yeah, I know. And folks, like I said, this is about the Jeep life. And Jeffrey's a really hands-on guy. I mean, he's got an old Victorian-ish house, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's a 100-year-old house or so.
Yep.
And you're going through it board by board, basically.
Oh, yeah.
Revamping rooms and
Well, and with Kristen being laid up, she wasn't able to walk in the heat. She was, varying degrees, wanted to change temperature. So she made me buy a wireless thermostat,
oh boy.
which was awesome. I'm
Oh,
like,
boy.
no biggie. I'll just switch this out. No, there's 4 wires in our house, and for Wi-Fi thermostats, you need 5 wires. So
Oh,
back
5
to Lowe's.
wires.
Yep. So back to Lowe's I went.
You're pulling wires in this 100-year-old house.
Yep. So
Nice.
Yep. Got to do that. And that didn't take long. That was actually fairly simple. But
Okay.
that was just one of many tasks. That
Do we
she-
know what 5 wires there are for a wireless thermostat?
So you have your yellow, your white, your green,
Right?
and your red, which is
Okay.
your 4-wire. That's typical, with a central air as well.
Okay.
And then the blue common wire is what you have to add for the Wi-Fi.
For your communication.
Yep.
Yep. Yeah, folks, if you have a JL, you're joining us, or a JT, get ready for it, right? Because there are comm wires all throughout your vehicle, and it's kind of what you're talking about as far as that Wi-Fi. You basically have an impulse wire it is just for it's dedicated for communication. I recently experienced somebody, I don't exactly remember what, online, I believe, talking about one of the most stereotypical things is that basically the whole the Jeep will geek out at once. And a lot of people, want to blame the batteries, this, that, and the other thing. It is probably more likely that it's just like when your computer used to freeze. We had to just hard reset the computer. Sometimes Jeeps need the same thing,
Yep.
Especially the newer ones, the newest ones. Because tucked behind your glove box in your JLs and your JTs are actually 2 data bars. So they're not exactly, they are a bus bar design, but they are not actually like the old school bus bar that just 12-volt flows in and ground flows out and so on and so forth. Nope, they are straight up communication lines with these tiny little thin wires that have impulse signals ripping through them at any given time that your Jeep is on. And it works a whole lot like the internet that's pulsing through your house right now, that you're listening to us if you're remote streaming or something to that effect. That is what you have to look forward to in your JLs and JTs at this moment.
Yep.
So yeah, that makes sense that you're retrofitting that technology to your 100-year-old house.
And I was fortunate because last year I upgraded the furnace, so the control board actually had that extra port for the wiring, whereas some of the older models don't actually have that. You'd have to buy an adapter. It's a C-wire adapter that you have to basically connect in.
Huh.
It's like a separate transformer almost that
Yes.
plugs to the furnace.
Yeah, because then ultimately it becomes the data communication center.
Yep.
And then passes that on. And of course, when we do some of our old school retrofitting to put fuel injection on some of our vintage Jeeps, we're doing something similar.
Yep.
So yeah, that makes perfect sense. All right, so we got really cool things going on, and again, it's about the Jeep life. But with the Jeep life, goes hand in hand with we got full on Thanksgiving, ideally.
Oh, yeah.
Crazy good times of Thanksgiving, and then our little town of Conneaut, Ohio, which is where headquarters of Simpson Family Jeeps is. Loves a parade. It's great hometown spirit, northeastern Ohio. People turn up in 40-degree weather, darkness of afternoon light, snow mounds on the side of the road. It was a cool, not too wet of a day, and it made for a great parade atmosphere. Big shout out to the event organizers. It's never easy to put on and coordinate all these different, floats and units that would participate in the parade. So big shout out to them. I believe it was, in part by the Chamber of Commerce this year, previously by the library, and prior to that by an individual for almost 20 years. So pretty
It's insane that an individual would be responsible for that long.
right.
Without having an organization with them.
Yeah, pretty substantial undertaking just to communicate and attempt to coordinate all these different parties. We as an organization, obviously, we want to support our local community where we are physically located. But we obviously want to support our Jeep community by creating an event, a venue, an opportunity to honestly make people happy with our Jeeps, which hands down I think is what happened. So not only was it our Jeep community who was happy, we were having a good time, but then like other people, who enjoy seeing the Jeeps. And honestly, when you bring in 30, 40, Jeeps into a parade, especially a small town America parade, that kind of dominates a pretty large portion of it. And I got to tell you, a lot of our Jeep owners, our participants, brought the heat this year on decorations.
They did. I was impressed.
That was cool.
Yeah.
That was cool. So if we're in your ear holes right now and you're just kind of joining us, you're not familiar with the social media side of things, you're going to want to go over to either our YouTube, our Instagram, our Facebook, all that kind of stuff, and check out pictures from video from the past or pictures from the current situation. Right? There was really good stuff, and you're going to find that, and you're going to see what we do. I'm going to give people a rundown of what our approach is, why we do it, and whatnot. And we're going to show you some of the pictures. Those people who are tuning in, we're going to show you just a smattering, just a couple teaser pics of what we as an organization, as Jeep owners, brought to the table this year, which was very cool. So we start off, it's Black Friday. Years ago, as a facility, we're a small business, and what we discovered was that Black Friday really, really is dominated by the big box retailers of the industry. And so it is at this point in time to our benefit to give our employees the day off to recover from eating ourselves silly from Thanksgiving dinner, and obviously spend time with family.
Scott needed more time to recover.
Apparently. We then, big shout out goes to my sister, who years ago took over basically our Christmas festivities for us as a business, starting the week of with putting up our 10-foot plus Christmas tree, decorating with the kids of the family and business. We start decorating, we start preparing our facility. We do have a 24 by 24 foot little showroom and waiting space that kind of becomes Christmas prepped and ready. And then by the day of Black Friday, we open our doors to the general public. Any and all Jeep owners are welcome. Honestly, I don't even care if you don't even own a Jeep. You got a side-by-side and you want to come in for some hot chocolate. I don't care. Come in and you can see our facility. It's pretty cool. And basically by 3-4 p.m., people start showing up in the parking lot. They camp out wherever with people that they may or may not know, which is super cool. People meet each other. I think you actually met somebody at the gas station.
The car wash.
Oh, the car wash.
The car wash, yeah. It was another blue Gladiator, of course.
Oh, of course.
It was a Rubicon, too. So
it was serendipitous.
He was there washing off, and I'm like, hey, I don't know if you were from the area, but, we've got a Christmas parade. And he goes, that's literally where I'm headed after here. Perfect. We'll see you over there.
That's awesome.
And he's, brand new, just bought the Jeep a few weeks ago.
Sure.
Doesn't know anything about Jeeps or our facility. So we talked for a while after the parade even.
That's excellent, right? So people show up. They start camping out. We then cordon off. If you've not been, this is why we're sharing with you. We cordon off about a 10 or 12 foot by 20 foot space on our service floor, which is actually a really kind of a neat thing. And so we have this space designated So you can come into our showroom, and it's fun and festive, and there's, kids running around and people, who are filled with, both the joy of owning a Jeep and being part of the Jeep community, and obviously the Christmas spirit. And then you get to head in through our main entrance into the service floor, and you go out onto the service floor, and we got a couple tables set up with snacks, popcorn, cookies, hot chocolate. We had coffee. We have in past we've had trail mix and hot dogs and who knows whatever kind of the spirit moves us. And then we have.
To which I later found out Morgan had 4 cups of hot chocolate.
Oh, good for him. I'm sure you sugar him up and send him home to you guys.
Yeah.
That's
Hey, we get home and he's going, Mom, I had 4 cups of hot chocolate while we were there on this. I'm like, you what? When did you have 4 cups?
Dad of the year here. Dad of the year. Morgan's Jeffrey's middle.
Yep.
And obviously in true fashion was just kept visiting the hot chocolate station,
Yeah.
right? Oh, my gosh. So, and then this year we had a special guest, actually my sister, who's written a children's book, and it was released in 2022, I believe, or late 21.
I think late 21,
Late
yeah.
21. And she was actually doing a book signing. She sold out of books. People were legitimately, there was actually kind of 2 different event postings that were getting shared around on the Book of Faces, and one was actually the event itself, and then one was the book signing. I couldn't believe how many people actually came in and said, "Hey, where's the books at? Where's the book signing? I'm coming."
Sold
in to
out
get
as far as I could tell.
Yeah, we did. We sold out of books. She may have actually even took an order or 2. She actually had. I know she had to do an inscription so that when the books come in, she could make it out, do the actual inscription on the inside cover and send it to the people, which I thought was pretty cool.
That's awesome.
So kind of a special event. We spent a couple hours just being in each other's space, right? Telling Jeep stories, talking club specifics, and people decorate their Jeep. So they literally show up. They come in off the highway, out of the car wash, and they've got lights in the back. They've got wreaths. They've got streamers. They've got blow-up, Christmas blow-ups. And as you had promised, there was a special guest
There
this
was
year.
a special guest.
And I got to tell you, that special guest was the belle of the ball. Not just within us as a business and people being like having fun interacting, but like literally people along the parade route were all jazzed up
Oh, yeah.
because who joined us?
The Grinch.
The Grinch.
That was fun.
You know what? I almost asked you to come in.
I almost did.
I
I literally debated it, and then Scott's like, I'm not going to be in. I'm like, no, I'm not
you
going to
gotta
sit in
just-
costume the whole time because you wouldn't be able to hear me through the mask very well.
Oh, touche,
But-
touche.
But yeah,
So
that
you
was,
brought the heat. I apparently I planted the seed because last year you so the Gladiator, right, folks? I mean, and understand everybody decorates a little differently. And that's actually what I love. I love the diversity because there's
there were so many unique ideas this year.
so many unique ideas, so many cool things. And there was one Gladiator, and it's actually a local family, and they had done their Gladiator almost like in a really classic Victorian-ish Christmas, and they had like Christmas cards from like a flagpole holder out of their 2-inch receiver going up to the door, and they had like almost like Christmas card covers, but in like big 12 by 12
I think they were the only one that actually followed the theme of the parade of being a Hallmark Christmas.
You just blew my mind. You just blew my mind. I'm looking at the world right now because I didn't realize what you just produced. They actually were doing a Hallmark Christmas.
They were. They nailed it too.
They nailed it.
Yep.
Oh my gosh, they nailed it. I didn't even understand. We never do the theme of the parade. As
Honestly,
a business, like us
I had
as a
already
business.
planned out my whole setup before they said what the theme was. I'm like, oh, well, that doesn't really fit, but oh well.
I never, well, because I don't care. I'm
Right.
just here to like have fun with my Jeep and have some
Absolutely.
twinkly lights and throw candy at people and say hi and make people happy with these obnoxiously oversized big Jeeps that are just rolling through town. Some filthy, muddy, with
Oh, yeah.
big gnarly bumpers up to here, and some, bone stock with 1,000 twinkly lights on them.
And some that just don't decorate at all. Scott looking
Scott
at you.
Brown looking at you, totally.
Kristen saw the parade on the Conneaut's page.
Sure.
And said next year that we have to work with Amy to get Scott's Jeep decorated.
No.
Like we'll bring stuff in for his Jeep.
I'm not putting that on Amy. I'm not putting that on her.
No. Me and Kristen are going to do it with.
Oh,
just
jeez.
Amy's going to help us make
Nice.
sure that it happens.
Mad scientist. Strength, not Christmas decorating. Go figure. So with all the other stuff, I didn't even realize that their Hallmark, thematically, that Gladiator was perfect Hallmark Christmas. And as what I was saying otherwise, there was a bunch of other really cute, unique ones, and I'll talk about another one that jumped out at me. I thought it was adorbs.
There's Bah Humbug from Scott.
Of course there is, the mad scientist. True adrenaline rush.
When he
as
realized that
usual.
Grinch was here, it was, hey, that's my costume.
Yeah, right. so last year you struggled a little bit with your inverter.
I did.
And we'll talk about that when we do #NotSponsored.
Yep.
Right? But this year I said, you always go above and beyond for Halloween decorations.
Correct.
So you're a decorator, and I love decorating for Christmas personally. I don't ever seem to be able to prioritize the time and energy to decorate for a float or for the Jeeps. But you do a really darn good job. So I had said something to you previously, and I said, what are you going to do to upstage what you did the year prior, which was what, like an 8-foot snowman or something in the back
it
of
was
your
an
truck.
8-foot snowman. I had lights everywhere. I had the PA speaker playing.
Totally.
Fake snow on the vehicle.
Yes. All of it was awesome.
All the works.
The works. And so I said this to you, and you were like, oh, snap.
Yeah.
Got to do something.
Yep.
So what did you do?
I panicked. And then I started.
Oh, okay. You panicked.
And then I started searching the internet for ideas, and I thought, what if the Grinch just made an appearance? So I scoured the internet for a decent costume.
It was a great costume.
I was very pleased with
It was
that costume.
very authentic looking. People loved it. And I mean, it wasn't one of those like 20-footers. I mean, it was good up close.
Yeah.
And you're a good character actor. You were a good character actor.
The best part about being the Grinch, though, was that you could get away with pretty much anything at the parade. I was going up grabbing people's decorations.
He did. He was stealing decorations. I kid you not. Whether you're listening in the drive, the commute in, or whether you're watching us, he got into a fire truck without telling anybody.
I did.
And then like the firemen were like, WT blah is happening, and then they're like, oh, it's the Grinch.
Yep.
Like, there was no planning. And fortunately for us, the Savage had the camera on you most of the time.
The downside was the Savage really wanted us to find a Santa so the Grinch and Santa could square off. We couldn't find a Santa. We walked around the parade. When I watched it on the camera with my wife later, the last float had a Santa Claus in it.
That is the official Santa of our parade.
Well, he wasn't at the float when we were walking around. He was hiding for the surprise reveal or something. I don't know, but we were disappointed. So next year, we need a Santa Claus.
We have a couple customers who oftentimes play Santa, including my dad as well. Actually, all have Santa costumes. So if we coordinate
I don't know if I want to
little
square
better,
off with your dad. He'll take the Grinch out.
That's right. That's right. But as far as we do, and in the past have had some Santas present, the only downside to that is it's a little anticlimactic. And the parade organizers have never asked us not to dress up as Santa, but it is a little anticlimactic for the viewers who are along the parade route, who see Santa first in a Jeep. And then he's supposed to be coming in a sleigh at the end of the parade, and that's a little bit of a challenge. All right, so we have this whole congregation of activity inside our facility. Outside, people were decorating like mad, right? One of the ones that jumped out to me, two-door JK, and she usually goes above and beyond. She's participated in our 4th of July parade as well, which is so cool about our Jeeps, to think that not only are they versatile off-road vehicles that can take us hunting, fishing, camping, trail riding and the like, but then we can clean them up and parade around and make people happy with them, right? And I know factually that's a lot of what these customers their Jeeps for. And then we have some people who just socialize with them, which is really cool too, because it opens yourself up to, to all these opportunities that, is it feels like a club. It might not exactly be club, but it's community based, So anyways, this two-door JK, I really got a kick out of the fact that she had little elf feet or waists hanging as if they're stuck under her hood, kind of escaping out.
Yeah.
And obviously the works for the lights and everything. But I thought that was, again, it's these little things. Or there was like the little snow gnome on the one person's
That one was hilarious. It was
cow.
lit up gnome.
Yep, lit up gnome.
The Christmas tree that was in the back of the Jeep.
Yes, Christmas tree.
It was lit up
inside
so,
the Jeep, so you see in through the gingerbread house.
Yeah,
on
that was
top
really
of
cool.
there. Yeah,
That took some time to build that and set that up.
Right. And people legitimately, I mean, we're showing up at 4:00. The parade was supposed to step off at 5, so we only should have had an hour to decorate and go. I'll be honest with you, I didn't mind the 2 hours. So
that was kind of nice.
The parade got pushed back an hour this year. Nothing that we had any control over. But we ended up having 2 hours here, and so that gave people a ton of time with the snack stations and with decorating. And so we had a lot of fun doing that, and I think people had a good fill before we headed out to the parade route.
Absolutely.
So we then, my dad is always, I always consider my dad the masters of ceremonies for the business himself. He never really loves that. It's kind of a insider secret. So if you're listening, you're hearing this, my dad actually would always prefer for me to go first. Which
But
I
he
think
does such a good job at leading it.
You know what? And that's the thing. Like, a lot of people will confuse, and I think it's hysterical personally. They think that based on the namesake, Simpson Family Jeeps, and that it was actually started by a lineage higher than myself. They didn't expect 20 years ago, a 22-year-old to start this company. And so they always credit my father and my grandfather or somebody else to doing this. I kind of play into it. I just let him lead every time. I give him that honor because obviously he's the person who introduced me to Jeeps. But, he's always like, wow, you should really go first, blah, blah, blah. So I think it's funny if you ever watch the TV stuff, they always like credit him like, oh, there's Dave Simpson, owner of Simpson Family Jeeps. And that's always funny to me. But he leads, and it also helps us because he always decorates up really well. About 1,000 gajillion lights on his Jeep and lots of blinky, flashy things, more so than me.
I think it plays really well that he leads and you usually
I always
up.
close the back door.
You close it up.
I always close the back door.
Yep.
And I'm okay with that. And so I always go last in the parade line. Most people, if you've never participated, you might not ever know that, but that is my model. My dad always leads, and I always close up the parade and make sure there's no man left behind, no Jeeper left behind. And so we have him line up out at the road, and then we can funnel people in. We strategically placed you kind of middle of the pack, right? Yep. So 30-plus units, decorated, wintry night here in northeastern Ohio, and we put Jeffrey in the Gladiator, the Grinch in the Gladiator, middle of the pack, because
I had 2 PA speakers.
you have these stinking awesome PA speakers that are legitimately the size of like a Willie's Jeep, perched in the back of his Gladiator, blasting Christmas music to everyone around.
Yep.
Which I just think is like the coolest thing, because you get this line of Jeeps, and right as it kind of starts to get a little mundane, then boom, music.
So this year, boom, music and Grinch.
And Grinch.
I don't think anybody could hear the music over how many people were screaming about the Grinch driving a Jeep.
Is that not the
It
funniest thing?
Awesome.
And you had the dog on the roof.
Yes, I had
right?
Max up on the roof.
Max, absolutely. And let's talk about the joy that is brought to the people on the sides of the road when our community, our Jeep and off-road community, our automotive community participates in these types of events. How crazy is that?
Oh, it's unbelievable.
I mean, and you know what? Obviously people love candy and they love a show. Speaking of, and this just hit me. One of the Jeeps in the parade had a confetti blaster.
I saw that on
One of our Jeeps.
That was awesome.
She confetti blasted the the main stage. I thought that was hysterical. Nobody knew it was going to happen.
They had probably at least a half dozen of them because they fired off several shots of it.
I haven't seen it, but so as we drove through, we saw the aftermath of all this confetti, and I was like, oh, that's cool. And then I saw like the coverage online afterwards, and I was like, oh my god, that was our group. You know, that was super cool. And I mean, it had to have gone a couple stories high and then confetti down. And I was like, oh my god, we need to do that in the future.
Absolutely,
like hardcore, we need to do that in the future. So anyways, the joy that is brought to these people, and obviously I think a lot of people tune in for the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. I mean, I know that that's a staple in my household.
Oh, yeah.
And
it's
so,
always on at our house as well.
Absolutely. So much of the world loves a parade in that sense. And so it's cool that we as a Jeep and off-road community, automotive community, can bring that joy to other people. And that's always the feedback that I hear or see that I get online, and people like, oh, I love seeing the green Jeeps. Oh, I love seeing the blue Jeep with the Grinch and Max on top. Oh, hey, one of these Jeeps had these twinkly lights at the, halo lights on the headlights, and that was so cool. It's so interesting to see what people glean off of their experience as viewers or participants of the parade.
And everybody had a different experience. And then Amy's chiming in saying we were right behind them. They had at least 10.
Wow.
At least 10 confetti cannons. That's awesome.
Wow. Yeah, that would be something. So, needless to say, it's a really interesting experience. We bring a ton of joy to people who are either from the area or have traveled into the area or who are watching online, and that is so cool.
Darla's chiming in saying morning, so good morning, Darla.
Good morning to you, Darla. So here's the thing, folks. Here's my message, right? Twofold. One, if you are able, join us in the future. Either the 4th of July parade, but definitely the Christmas parade if possible. It is a really fun time, and it is so well worth it. 2, if you are national or international, one of our listeners who are from abroad, see if you can get involved in some manner in your local community or a community near you and get your Jeep into the parade and kind of show off that pride that is our off-road brand to your local community. Decorate, even if it's just 1, 2, 3 people grouped together, that's still going to bring some really cool experiences to the viewers. And you'll get to really experience that joy of being in the parade and in this season of giving, actually giving that joy unto other people. And thirdly, get here next year. Because I think
definitely
these just have increased year after year. And I mean, we've been doing it for, honestly, a decade at this point. But realistically, as we get more ingrained in the local community, as we get ingrained in our process, bringing these really cool experiences, I really want to put like a big, huge float in our parade.
That'd be awesome.
I think that would be really cool. And maybe actually for once follow the theme of
nah.
Probably
because all the floats followed the theme and they were all very similar. Each one had its own unique thing, but all the floats were the same. The living room set up, and I was like, oh, it's kind of getting boring.
Oh yeah, huh?
But they each had a unique twist to it, so
right.
It was nice.
Right, but we can bring the unique individuals,
Absolutely.
and that is us.
Tracy chimed in. We missed the Jeep fun this time. We were with the float for Feed Our Vets, but the Jeeps looked awesome from behind us walking and listening to the crowd cheer.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, and Tracy, one of the leaders, executive leadership of Freedom Crawlers, but of course their club was well represented with us. So
Absolutely.
Thank you for spreading that message with them. And obviously Feed Our Vets, a great local mission as well, philanthropic pursuit, which, well deserved its time in the parade as well. So,
yes.
But of course, I think her in-laws were actually the ones who with the gladiator with the Hallmark theme.
Okay.
Yeah. So they were well represented, to say the least. And I think, like I said, challenge. if you're national, international, go and use your Jeep to spread some of this joy like we have had that opportunity. And if you are local, if you're listening to us, if you're viewing, if you've come into the shop, whatever, join us next year. You're not going to want to miss it because honestly, every year it just gets better. It is super fun.
And I mean, it was a beautiful night out too. I'm going to pull up one of the pictures for the viewers. And this is actually a drone footage from the parade lineup when we were all lined up with the Jeeps. And it's just a beautiful view of the city. Yeah.
So if you're listening in, a big shout out to one of our media managers, Scott Lindquist, who's been with us for quite a few years. He brought the drone out. He's got these beautiful picturesque shots where he's 100, 150, and in some of the shots he's 200 plus. Of course, I don't actually know those numbers for sure if there's licensure or whatever. So don't listen to me. I don't know what I'm talking about when it comes to drones. But he's way, way up in the air, and he's got these beautiful horizon line shots. And what you really get this sense where there's snow mounds kind of piled, along the backyards and roads and driveways, a little bit of that kind of stuff. And you get these small town city lights. And all the Jeeps lined up down the center of it.
I mean, honestly, this would look like something, a canvas I'd put in my house. It's beautiful.
100%. From an automotive perspective, it is just this great Christmassy, lifetime Hallmark Jeep-inspired pictures. I looked at that, and I grabbed a couple, and I shared them into other groups, and they're going crazy because it's people who just think, like, that's a really cool picture.
And then Kristen's going, I see the Grinch in that too. So apparently right there you can see a couple of us congregated there.
Okay.
I didn't notice that before she said it.
Right.
And then Tracy's saying pictures were amazing.
They were. Thank you so much. And honestly, a lot of people were picking out their houses. I thought it was funny.
Yes.
People were picking out
comments.
their houses or family houses that they grew up in.
Yep.
So if you're listening in, you want to go find these pictures online when you get a free moment. Pull off to the side of the road, jump on our Facebook, jump on our Insta, and look for that. And then some of that drone footage is going to make its way into the video too. I understand. So
I can't wait to see it.
We have video as well of that. So super cool experience. Again, just an important part of the Jeep life, right? It's not all wrenching. It's not all nuts and bolts. There is a large social aspect, what makes our experience so unique.
One of the other Freedom Crawler, I believe he's vice president, was there with their dogs, and so there's that picture.
Oh my God! Oh my goodness!
The dogs for the bulk of the night were not happy with the Grinch.
They were not happy.
Growling, barking.
It's the Grinch, so.
And then when one of them realized that they could get pet by the Grinch, the other one had to have all the pets.
They could get pet by the Grinch. The Grinch was not going to hurt them, so the dogs got in on it too. Is what you're saying?
Yeah.
Huh?
Oh yeah.
That's awesome. What a fun little picture. Oh, goodness. Yeah, so Grinch kneeled down, having a nice time, got a couple puppies on his lap, and getting some rubbins and lovins from the Grinch to the animals of the Jeep world. So very cool. If you have any questions or feedback on that, feel free to post them up on the Facebook Live right now or on the YouTube when you're watching.
Send us pictures or videos that you got from the parade. We'd
Absolutely.
love to see them.
Love to see them and be part of that with you. We'll probably be talking about it for another week or so. Until then, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back with #NotSponsored.
And now it's time for our product spotlight. #NotSponsored. Spotlight. #NotSponsored.
All right. So we have some feelings about this. We have some feelings, and typically this is where we hold something up and we shake it at you for those people who are in viewing and being part of it. Ultimately, we're not doing that because the one that I have here is like this big. It is way too big to have back here. We could have put it on display like we do the tires. It's more of an industrial version that you find like in an RV or on a service vehicle. But what we're going to be talking about today, #NotSponsored, are inverters. So the general concept of an inverter, if you are unfamiliar, and ultimately when participating specifically in parades, but maybe you're off-grid camping, maybe you are going for a picnic, maybe you're a coffee addict like myself, you may feel the need to produce 110 electricity, 110 volt electric volt, 110 electricity.
You'll
AC,
get there.
Yeah. From your Jeep, your vehicle. Now, if you are unfamiliar, we're going to try and boil down a little bit of household is 110, and the your vehicle is 12 volts. Okay, so we have 12 volt electricity, and you have 110 coming out of the socket in your house. We have AC and DC currents. Okay, an inverter takes that 12 volt and basically, well, lack of truly professionalism, spins that electricity up and turns it into 110 standard household electric. And now you can plug in your standard string of lights, maybe your hair dryer, if you're the wattage of the inverter will allow.
So let me ask you this:
so on and so forth.
Why won't my cigarette lighter work?
And this is my neck just got so super tight. I'm stretching. I'm trying to stretch out my head and my neck because all right. So we can boil that down, and there is basically on wattage draw, right? So your household electric items. A string of lights has a very, very, very low wattage draw from your average, 110, plug it into the outlet at your house. Your coffee maker, portable space heater, your hair dryer, those actually have a very high wattage draw. All right. And there's a couple things that are important to know. You have basically a operating amperage or wattage, and you have a surge wattage. Okay. And that's what's really critical to understand about inverter technology. So in years past, people who are wanting more out of their electrical systems, their 110 electrical systems, like Jeff the Italian Stallion when he brings his DJ equipment.
I got to say, it lasted longer than I thought it would before it blew that fuse.
Last year. And so ultimately, and this will be a part of the issue where I kind of stand on my soapbox as far as inverter technology that you'll want to familiarize yourself with. Ultimately, the 12-volt cigarette lighter in your vehicle, it runs through a wire that is just this very, very small gauge. So 14, 16, 18, 20 gauge wire to your cigarette lighter. So ultimately, measuring electricity, we have volts, ohms, and amps. And so it's we don't want to, there's squeezing, there's pushing, and then there's flow. And so we'll just kind of leave it at that. Ultimately, the 12-volt cigarette lighter don't make enough electricity. That's just what you got to come down to, okay? So if you are trying to run a blender, a coffee maker, something more substantial, you're going to want to tie that directly to your battery, okay? So you're going to want to find an inverter that either has alligator clips or eyelets that can be directly installed to your battery. Now, with that aside, you want to make sure you have a healthy alternator, because if the draw from your inverter is greater than the alternator can recharge, then it will ultimately start to depreciate your battery's capacity. And this is a fine balancing act. And ultimately, if you follow much of our other stuff, we've done off-road trailers and campers and RVs and overlanding experience stuff, and we talk all about this, and we have to understand how this stuff works. And you can see I get really excited because I think this is cool stuff. But ultimately, for something as fun as as far as running our Christmas lights or some music or your blow-up snowman and all that kind of stuff, the more lights you have, the blow-up snowman, the sound system, you're going to want to get that right onto the battery itself and get that full draw right off the battery and make sure that you're leaving the Jeep running, because the inverter will work at that point. It'll work hooked up to the battery, but you'll just run your battery down real fast.
Right. And then Scott's chiming in. Mine worked fine for my 105 LED Christmas lights from the power port.
Most people had more than 105 lights on their bumper alone, Scott.
Yep.
Or not even. From the power port, right? And so ultimately we have a small inverter and 12 volt coming out of a cigarette lighter or something to that effect. Now LED lights are going to have less of a draw, and so you'll need less capacity of the inverter itself. If you want to string 8 sets of lights together, which is probably against manufacturer specifications of the lights themselves, but probably you can go up to 4 lights, couple thousand lights on a Jeep. You're going to want to have an inverter that's A, tied directly to the battery, and B, has an appropriate operating wattage. Now, that's not surge wattage, and this is the problem where a lot of people will see. They'll say, oh, hey, I've got an 800-watt inverter. Well, you actually might have an 800-watt surge, which means the moment that electricity turns on, let's pretend that it's a coffee pot, that when it's going through its heat cycle, a standard old electric coffee pot, when it's going through its heat cycle, it's actually going to ask for a bunch of electricity at once. And then once it grabs that electricity, basically, it kind of planes or evens out the necessity of how much electric current it's asking for. So that's a surge, and then your operation, right? So when you go to the store and you're looking at an inverter, you're cruising online, you're going to have two numbers that you want to pay attention to. The higher number is surge. That doesn't actually mean that it's going to sustain at that operating level. That's the secondary number. So if it's a 1,000-watt inverter, the reality is it might only be 600 at an operating level, and so then you need to make sure that whatever equipment you're trying to run off of it then makes sense.
Yeah, don't do what I do and just keep plugging stuff in until it stops working.
So what happens if you do plug stuff in until it stops working, right? And this is important because my father experienced this a little bit because A, he had a bajillion lights on his Jeep, and B, he accidentally put the hot, the lead, the 12 volt, whatever on. He put that on the ground and the ground on the hot, and Arky Sparkied when he initially put them up, right? Okay, so what did you say, Jeffrey?
Popped a fuse.
Except for he didn't.
Oh.
So here's the thing. When you're looking at an inverter, now it's important to note that, honest to Pete, the inverter that I use for the parades is a Duralast AutoZone 400-watt surge, 200-watt operating inverter.
I believe that's what I have, too.
It's
got 2 fuses on it.
It has 2 35-amp fuses.
Yep.
Now, the interesting piece is 35-amp fuses, really hard to come by. 30, 40, very easy to come by. 35, not so much. With that said, his first inverter that he had an internal reset relay. So there is not an external fuse that is intended to be the short, that is intended to break prior to damaging the inverter. So when he hooked them up accidentally, hot to ground and ground to hot, it is supposed to hit an internal reset.
Yep.
But the surge of that was in excess of what that internal reset should have done and burnt up the entire inverter.
Oh.
And what that would be, that internal inverter, it would be the kind of, honestly, it's the dum-dum proof version, right? So now it's in my vehicle, it's hooked up correctly, and I keep plugging implements, lights, blender, whatever in it until it stops. Well, at that point in time, the internal reset would just stop. And honestly, a couple power tools from the 90s were built this way. I have a Makita cutoff wheel, and it would start to get hot, and it would shut off, and then eventually, once that relay cooled off, it would open up again, and you would rock and roll. So that's what it was supposed to happen, and instead, he hooked them up accidentally, and it just fried the entire inverter. So when you're looking for something, I suggest that you look with one that has serviceable fuses. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh, absolutely.
Because you blew a bunch of fuses last year.
I did.
And how did you blow those fuses?
Because I was hooked up to the cigarette lighter.
You were hooked up to the cigarette lighter.
With way too much.
And so ultimately what was happening was because there was such a significant draw and because it was not coming through the cigarette lighter sufficiently, it warmed up the circuitry. When we have an insufficient load distribution, things get hot. And again, that has to do with these three little aspects of electricity. And so we're trying to push a bunch of electricity through a very small space, basically. And then that creates friction. That creates heat. And that's what obviously makes fuses necessity, especially here when you're wiring things on your own vehicle. Please fuse them.
Additionally, on that note, don't upgrade the fuse just because you want more power out of it.
Never upgrade the fuse.
That's not a good option.
And in my dad's situation, we actually blew a fuse as well this year while we were trying to hook all these lights up. And in that situation, they were 35 amp fuses. We actually downgraded. We went down a step.
And that's much better than going above.
That's much better than going above. At that point in time, 30 amps pulling a couple electric Christmas lights. Hey, we just have to remove a strand, and that would work just fine, right? So that's important as far as hashtag not sponsored, folks. Product review, if you will. Inverters. Two big things to keep in mind. Well, three things. There's two numbers. The higher number doesn't designate the operation. The lower number does. So go for that based on the equipment you're going to plug in. Two, make sure that you're able to hook up directly to your battery and that you have sufficient room or space under hood or wiring that will connect you to your inverter. If you're trying to overland or camp out of your vehicle, you want to make sure that you extend that wire safely up through the engine bay and that inverter can be inside with you. And ultimately, third, make sure that it's a serviceable unit that has fuses that you can replace. And that would be the big tips or tricks to getting a sufficient inverter, running your Christmas lights, your blow-up snowman, and apparently your professional DJ equipment.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Folks, I hope you enjoyed this very fun, festive recount of our, Thanksgiving to Christmas festivities. Like I said, jump over to our Facebook, our Insta, head over to YouTube to check out videos from the past and make sure you're sitting on the edge of your seat, hold your breath, and wait for that new video to come out. You're definitely going to want to see pictures of the Grinch, those beautiful picturesque drone footage from the parade itself, or find the actual parade footage on the local access channels or being passed around on the internets right now to be part of that experience. And again, my challenge for you is if you're sitting at home, nationally or internationally, figure out how you can spread some seasonal joy with your Jeep and get to experience that fun and fulfillment that we get as a community when we participate in these types of parades. With that said, unfortunately, it is time for me to be
a
singer and attempting to spread some joy for you through song that Jeffrey has produced for us. Are you going to sing with me, Jeffrey?
No. I'm a producer, not a singer.
I'm not a singer either.
You were in an a cappella band. That was your fault for telling us that.
All right, folks. You know what? I find myself each time vamping, trying to avoid doing it. I'm trying to avoid the
rip the
challenge.
Band-Aid off
rip
and
the
get to
Band-Aid. All right. Yeah, all right. So here's your lowdown. 12 Days of Christmas. We're gonna sing four stanzas of it. Apparently, I have to sing an a cappella, which is just terrible. You need if you're listening in through your vehicle, your headphones, your earphones, you're at work, you're whatever. A, I'm sorry. B, Scott should be here fumbling through paperwork, just helping this along, making me feel less awkward about it. And thirdly, with no further ado,
I need Davey to get the spotlight on you, so we just have a single spotlight, fade out the rest of this.
Goals. Oh my gosh! Tis the Christmas season, folks. On the first day of Christmas, my true love gave to me A Jeepster in a spring green color, spring green. That's a color.
That's a color.
From a Jeepster. What
Yeah.
year was that you looked that up?
I don't remember.
You Joogled it.
I did.
He Joogled. He says there's a color out there called spring green, and it was produced on Jeepsters.
Scott going, oh boy.
On the second day of Christmas, my true love gave to me 2 rocker rails and a Jeepster in spring green.
Scott's saying that's his favorite, so he knows the color.
Of course he knows the
Oh,
color.
it's green,
That's
so of
green,
course he does.
and it's odd, like him. All right. On the third day of Christmas, my true love gave to me 3-inch springs, 2 rock rails, and a Jeepster in a spring green. And you're not going to want to miss this one, folks. The 4th. On the 4th day, I did a key change there. On the 4th day of Christmas, my true love gave to me 4 beadlock wheels, 3-inch lift springs, 2 rocker rails, and a Jeepster in a spring green. Well, there
James
it is.
saying it sounds great. So good job to you.
Folks, make sure that you join us next week for more fun automotive talk. I hope that you are living the Jeep life. I hope that you are able to both give and receive some seasonal holiday joy from the automotive community. And a big shout out to Scott for joining us remotely and chiming in, but we wish him best with feeling better. We've all been under the weather. Stay away from the crud. Stay in. Take care of yourselves. Take care of the loved ones. Join us next week. Head over to YouTube, like, comment, subscribe, do all that kind of good stuff. Find us on SFJ 4x4 TV and make sure that you ring that bell and get ready to get notified for when that parade drops and you can be part of the fun, festive experience with us. Don't forget, we only have 2 podcast episodes left in 2022. 2 dose. And so please make sure that you join us or catch those coming up. If you are joining us on your favorite streaming platform, we will have some bonus content available for you. But otherwise, we'll be taking a couple-week hiatus around the holidays to reset, regroup, and prepare to launch Season 3 in 2023.
All
Until
new
then,
look. All new look coming for Season 3. You have to tune in.
New host, hopefully.
No.
Until then, Jeep family, Jeep on.
Jeep on.